one person has asked how to include caste as a protected category across in South Asian communities. And then we've got a question about how do you think we could instill working class consciousness among the immigrants here in USA and Canada, specifically in the Ambedkarite circle? Ajinkya has asked that question.
Yeah, how to I see. I want to ask include caste as a protected category across the religion South Asian communities. So again, South Asian communities, one of the important things we have to do, particularly if you really want to take forward the issue of uh, caste into communities, and we have to uh, be active and also talk about this in public. That's one of the things, particularly unless we you ourselves engage with communities, it's very very difficult to bring this into them. And another important thing I think about communities these days is that no one reads, particularly software engineers I meet, hundreds and hundreds of them. I go to their houses, the big houses and big cars and big TVs, but none of them have books in their shelves. And I think one of the, as Ambedkar said, reading is a very very important part of beginning of liberation. And if you really want to educate people about anti-casteism, and I think uh, developing a reading culture is very very critical in this context. I think that's why spreading Ambedkar writings and also anti-race writings, and also if possible I think building some sort of reading rooms and reading culture, particularly discussion groups, is very very important in this context. Unless particularly for people who are genuinely interested in anti-caste advocacy and wants to you know uh, do eliminate caste from our consciousness, we need to have reading culture as a very very important part of this. And someone else talked about uh, mm, how do you think we could instill working class consciousness among the immigrants here in USA and Canada, especially the Ambedkarites? Again, what happens is that this Ambedkar, working class consciousness again, as uh, one of the important thing about Indian cultural upbringing is that we have a lot of stigma related to physical work, physical labor. And you notice that most of the people are not you know you know open to the idea of associating with the people coming from lower rungs of society, particularly working class. And the nature of work, particularly most of the majority of the immigrants are in blue collar and white collar jobs. And this building networks beyond their own profession. And that's where I think community advocacy becomes very very important. And I think that is what why I accepted speaking today with the AK Ambedkar King Center is precisely because of this. I think reaching out to people beyond our own spheres. It's like if I'm only talking to university teachers and students, and it's like singing to the choir. We all share same ideas, but we need to break into different sort of audience. And also even if we can change one or two persons and make them feel that there is a future in it, I think that's where we succeed.
We have another question from Ambedkar King Study Circle. Karthik, is that your question?
No, it's me, Subbu.
Okay, Subbu, can you ask?
Oh, okay. So yeah, I think you kind of answered it already, but yeah, I was just wondering how can grassroots organizations and organizations like AKSC engage effectively with academic spaces for the kind of like de-Brahmanization that you talked about, and how can vice versa, how can academic spaces also engage effectively for community advocacy and grassroots organizing?
Invite, like the way you made me come and speak to you all. And I think the only way is that, being after them, and, and one of the important things is that, in academia, there is no ethical accountability. That's very, very important. People, they are just, worried about their own careers and all those things. I think, identifying people who are interested in speaking, and also, making people to come to, come and speak to, platforms like this, AKS, is very, very important. Like, and this is where I think, especially as immigrants and people who are interested in the issues of, caste and race, and, also working class movements. And I think, it's pushing the boundaries, and, putting people in uncomfortable spaces is very, very important way to build bridges and also build a community. And that's why it's so important that, academics needs to, be in uncomfortable spaces, and also they should be forced to explain what they do to lay audience. That's a big challenge. And that's what I think, that's where, the meaning of academic activism, and also what we write, as a meaning, unless we convey to people for whom we are meant to write for. And, if I make, write books and publish here and there, and, do not, convey what I write to Dalits, and it has no meaning. That's why I consciously try to speak to, people with whom I really want to engage with, and love of my community is more important.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
SK, can you go next?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Nitya. Thank you very much, Professor, for the talk, and also I really appreciate the way you stood bravely against the amidst the Hindutva in Canada. I have one question, which is what we are facing in the USA. I'm not sure how much it is relevant in Canada. As you said, when the institutions, especially these academic institutions, are including caste in the protected category, or the policies which is covering discrimination on the basis of caste, in the US, we have seen it is challenged in the courts. However, so far the judgments and the orders are coming in favor of us. Um, I would like to know how the Hindutva challenge these policies in Canada. Is it only a sort of a propaganda, or they are approaching the court to nullify it? And follow-up question on that one, in USA, with respect to USA, so far all the judgments and order are in favor of us, but we are not sure how long they will go, especially with the money and the political reach they have. So how we can really use one of the recent judgment, that where the California federal court says if there is a discrimination on the basis of caste, the state will intervene. So how to really amplify this at the national level and the international level? Because if the judgment has come on other way, that is in favor of the Hindutva, they would have amplified across the world. But despite we have a judgment in favor of us, in my opinion, it has not reached the every corner of the world.
Yeah, thank you, Karthik, for this. And yeah, like, that's what, like I was trying to tell you, like the landscape in which we live is very, very different. Like, the Canadian and also American landscape, particularly in terms of academic institutions and also anti-caste advocacy. As I said earlier, in Canada, because of the unions, and also, the way in which the labor activism is very, very active here, and labor organizations are very, very progressive here. And one, it's so, like, every labor organization, any sort of discrimination and any sort of injustice, they take it seriously. And that's where, like, Hindutva is unable to break into them. Like, that's one of the important thing, that, progressive labor organizations do not entertain them, and they're unable to break into any institution precisely because of that. And what they do is that, that's why they do all the time propaganda, because that's the only way they try to do, like every time they use propaganda as a very, very important aspect. And like, again, the way in which, like, another important thing, Karthik, we are trying to do because everywhere we go, they're asking for evidence. And in fact, now we are just completing a survey in Ontario on caste and caste discrimination. We got a grant, and last 1 year we are working on it. And in fact, this August the survey is going to be, closed, and then we'll be planning to finish the reports by end of December and try to come up with caste in Ontario, the province. And we also got a larger grant of $300,000 to do caste in Canada survey. And one of the important things we want to see do is that we want to produce evidence. Like that's what in advocacy, evidence is very, very important aspect. Like if you really want to convince institutions or judges or any sort of people, once you have evidence and report, it cannot be refuted. And that's where I think we our strength lies in our experience and also producing evidence. And I think even that's one of the things, like I think for US, that is what, there are no larger survey, like like there's no survey as such, report, yearly report or one report, like for example Human Rights Watch report on caste, like that. If there is anything which can have which can caters to entire North America, particularly America, and has some sort of thing, I think that will really give a very important uh, footing and also strength for argument. And that's why, like like the and another important thing, making community organizations to own what we are fighting for.
Yeah, thank you, Professor. Thanks.
Chinnaiah Varamban, do you want to ask your question?
Sure, I will. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the great speech, sir. Really enjoyed, and a lot of new information. I live in Texas. I'm a Tamil, so I know about Periyar. You probably heard about Periyar as well. So I have a couple of questions. One kind of interesting words that I heard: fascist yoga.
Yeah.
Fastest yoga. What do you mean by that? Can you elaborate a little bit more on
Yeah,
that?
for fascist yoga. In fact, it's a book just got published by
Okay.
Navayana book, in India. Anand Navayan,
Okay.
you might have heard about it. He
Yep.
publishes a lot of anti-caste literature, and in fact, the one new book has come, Fascist Yoga. And one of the things the book tries to demonstrate is that the Aryan race theory and also this whole idea of fatal attraction to Indian culture, and yoga becomes a very important ways in which white supremacists embrace it and also present that as a Aryan cultural tool through which you can have this so-called fitness, right? Like if you look at RSS shakas, and
Right.
even white supremacists see that this whole idea of physical agility and also physical presence, body presence, as a very important ways. So yoga basically, that's what like many times we think that it is a normal thing everyone does. And since we are all, most of you are from India, how many Brahmins grandparents practiced everyday yoga? You ask any of your Brahmin friend, did his father or grandfather ever practice yoga at home? No, right?
Right.
That has become a cultural symbol here. Every young girl from India has this yoga mat to put and show
Mhm.
to people, and especially white people. Like they
Right.
do yoga, om, they say. But it is, the yoga is meant for people who are renouncers, people who don't do any physical work and who eat and sit. They cannot digest food, so they have physical problems. That's what all these things. Dalit Bahujans are everyday working people. They don't need yoga. My grandmother never did, my mother never did. They were all physically well. So it is meant for people who don't do any physical labor.
Right.
That's why yogis, what do? They eat and sit.
Yep.
They need physical yoga.
That's very good. Yeah, very good point. I mean, all the working class people, we don't have time for all this, for all these things, and yeah, they're using that as a cultural symbol, here. Yeah, thank you. So I have one other observation. Obviously, almost all the discussions are based on Dalit oppression and Dalit issues. But I think Setu probably asked in the chat also. Other question is about the caste in between Brahmins and Dalits, like in the middle class, middle caste, I should say, not middle class, middle caste. There are a lot of, even I'm in Texas, in Dallas, coming weekend, there is a gathering for a particular caste, 3-day cultural event. And one of the segment of the event is matchmaking. So they want to make sure same caste people get married. So they're making, matchmaking based on caste in America, in Texas. And so the caste issue is definitely becoming bigger and bigger. And I totally agree with you when you said that we cannot talk among ourselves. We need to talk up to the new people and shame the casteist people, no matter what that caste is, shame the casteist people and, prevent these kind of gatherings and meetings taking place to enhance the casteism into America, so I'm pretty vocal here among the friends group, but it is definitely becoming a huge issue. So just an observation there. I don't know anything you want to offer there, a suggestion, ideas how we could stop it. At
That's
least
what
slow down for now.
That's what the privileged caste, particularly I come from Telugu background, and
Right.
since you live in Texas, you might know, Dallas is a very important ground for Telugu caste politics.
Absolutely.
The Reddis, Kammas, and also these days in Kapus, Velamas, these are all dominant caste people who have these organizations called ATA, American Telugu Association, NATA, North American Telugu Association, and various organizations, but they are all caste groups. They are not some progressive, Telugu identity thing. Telugu identity is just a mask for them.
Right.
What they do is that they do caste mobilization, and also one of the important thing you said about how they have this matchmaking uh, events and the way in which they make. And I think that's what did you come across this movie called Caste Rush? Recently RSS is propagating it, Caste Rush. It is about denying existence of caste discrimination not only in North America, in India also, saying that temples in India are open to Dalits and Bahujans, there is no caste discrimination. And curiously, I went and looked at all the sponsors of the movie, who are Jain Association of North America, the Telugu, all the Telugu like ATA, NATA, PATA, all the Telugu Brahmin associations, all this again, like who are the people who are denying that caste doesn't exist? Brahmins are dominant caste.
Right.
And one of the important thing about middle caste and Dalits is that we live in we basically live in lot of self shame. We are very ashamed to tell that own up to our own caste, and we are not proud of our forefathers. We are not proud of what they've achieved. I
Right.
meet so many Dalits, like Dalit Christians, and in fact, I'm doing lots of work with this very interesting young MP in Canadian Parliament, who is very passionate about Dalit Christians in India. And he said, he would like to meet people. I meet all these Dalit Christians. I know people, they are definitely 100% Dalit, but they don't want to identify. And same thing with BCs. BCs acts more Brahmanical than the Brahmins. So many BCs. I said, this is
Right.
not culture.
Right.
None of us, no BC or no Dalit ever had a Brahmin as a priest in their, festivals or home rituals. And one of the important thing about Dalit Bahujan cultures is that even marriages we used to conduct ourselves. Our
Right.
own caste person used to sit and you know do the marriage rituals. And these things, like unless we are proud of ourselves, there is no way that you will be respected by other. If you don't respect yourself, who will respect you? Tell me.
Absolutely.
It's so important for people to cultivate this idea that self-respect begins from respecting yourself, your family, your parents, your forefathers. And if you're not proud of that, there is no point talking about coming to America and building big houses, buying BMWs. Has no meaning unless you have self-dignity to tell that yes, I am a Villala, I am a whatever the caste you are.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Professor. We have like 4 more questions that I could maybe read out, and you can take like 5 minutes to answer it, and then we can wrap up.
Yeah.
Does that sound good? Okay. Ganesh Balamitran asks, you started the talk by saying we are in the neoliberal era. Can you explain that term in your words and connect it to the oppressed caste struggles? Somebody who's using an iPhone is asking, I'm in Norfolk, Virginia, USA. I want to know what the procedure is. How do I proceed? How should I get caste included as a protected category? And he would like to be connected with the right people to plan that process. Sedu asks 2 questions. How does Periyar and his fight against casteism and social discrimination fit into this? And second, what to do about the casteist mindset of the so-called middle and landowning caste, which you touched upon already.
Yeah, I will start with the neoliberal era. The neoliberal era is a very dangerous era. And since we all are from India, you all know, one of the important things about the Mandal Commission and also after post 1990, Mandal Commission movement and other liberalization in India. So like one of the important things neoliberalism is doing is systematically delegitimizing any sort of social justice agenda. And you see that government institutions, particularly I come from Telangana and also Andhra Pradesh, like there is no recruitment for any universities these days. Most of the universities departments do not have faculty to teach, particularly public universities. And government schools, for example, do not have teachers. Who are the people who are availing these institutions? Dalit Bahujans. I would not have studied but for free boarding and free schools provided by the government. But that is not there anymore for people who are coming now. So what it does is that the neoliberal agenda, what it does is that any sort of social agenda, social justice agenda, it tries to delegitimize. And that's why what you see that under Modi, the aggressive privatization is part of that. The way in which Adani and Reliance, Mukesh Ambani are growing at the cost of public institutions is precisely because of that. That because public institutions, what happens is that we have a claim over them. Like Indian Oil to all any company you have, they're all constitutionally mandated to provide reservation for BCs and SCs and STs. But once you privatize them, you have nothing like reservation. So that's why what happens is that the way in which education and also public institutions are being destroyed in India particularly has a lot to do with the way in which this whole neoliberal agenda has been implemented. And the second thing, someone is asking about how to do caste advocacy. I think now one of the important thing you have to do with across, I think North America, you have lots of anti-caste advocacy groups, and who are basically, if you really want to do something, you can reach out to me, and also there are many other people who are doing in different campuses, and it's very easy. And about middle caste, and particularly I'm following Tamil Nadu recent caste atrocities and lots of violence against Dalits, and that's what it's so it breaks my heart. Periyar land is producing caste atrocities against Dalits by OBCs. That's what again it has a lot to do with Periyar has become rhetoric for them. Periyar has, like, if they really want to take forward Periyar's or Ambedkar agenda, of anti-casteism, I think education and reading is very, very important. Unless we educate middle caste about what caste means, how they are also victims of Brahmanism and casteism, we cannot really build a caste-free world. Thank you.
I think there are two more questions that I missed. I'm so sorry. Dalit had asked a question about the role of Rajiv Malhotra on Hindutva in Canada, and he's talking about a Hinduphobia bill in Canada. If you can speak to that. And then Roja has asked a question about, she says she loves what you said about love for my people. She wants advice on how to populate Dalit intellectuals, any ways in which you're taking active steps towards that in India and Canada. She says we need to build our numbers.
Adding to my question, the reason behind I asked this question is, so they tried in Scotland and they passed, and they did something in the Scotland. They passed a resolution. It was passed throughout Scotland, the Hinduphobia bill. And they tried in US. US, it is there actually. It is just drafted and it is tabled. And similar to that, I heard in I may be wrong, but Canada, they're trying it through Raju area. The reason behind is, if you see the recent, like 2 to 3 months, you can see like 2 to 3 incident about a vandalism of temple. So the reason why I'm mapping vandalism of people with Hindutva bill is, so in Scotland, in US, they quote this vandalism as a temple as against Hindus, and they do it like they bring that Hinduphobia bill. So is there any plan there in Canada?
Yes, thank you for asking that. And yeah, it's very interesting. Rajiv Malhotra, he also used to send me regular emails. And he's like, so then I had to go to my university and, tell my IT department to block this guy. And he's a serial offender. Basically, he has this habit of sending emails and everything to know about. Because he's a very rich man, he doesn't have anything else except doing this nonsense. And but thing is that he has a money, and in America it worked, but in Canada he is unable to do anything. Rajiv Malhotra has no influence here. Rajiv Malhotra only has this Brahmin organizations in Toronto here and there. They might have something. But Hinduphobia bill, they wanted to bring in Canadian Parliament last year also. We led campaigns and sent to all the members of Parliament. And one of the important thing about Canadian context is that we have very strong Sikh population here, politically very, very powerful community. On top of it, we also, like particularly the Muslim advocacy groups. And another important thing is that Canadian Parliament did a big investigation on political influence in Canada, both by China and India. And more than China, it is India's role which came out very, very drastically. So that's one of the reasons why Hindu right groups are on back foot in Canada. They're unable to advance themselves. One thing, we strongly organizing ourselves to any sort of bill, campaign they want to bring in, particularly this victimization, saying that, uh, uh, temples are being attacked and Hindus are being attacked. And there are 2, 3 instances where, RSS people themselves did it to get the attention. So it's like in Canada, their strategies are not working. And one I said, this is precisely because Canada is still under the influence of progressive politics.
Okay. Thank you so much, Professor. I think we can conclude. Roja had asked a question. Do you want to take that or?
Yeah, please, Roja, yes, please tell me.
Roja, can you unmute yourself and ask the question? Okay, I don't think she's
Yeah,
able
I
to.
got it. I got it.
Oh.
I had to like fumble for the button. Sorry. Chinnaiah, so amazing to listen to you. This is the first time I'm hearing a full-fledged testimonial talk from you. Thank you so much for sharing your story, your life story. You are definitely a, a leader, an inspiration, a Canadian Ambedkar, I would say. Thank you so much.
No.
Yeah, we can talk later. You don't
Yeah.
need to answer the question. So we just need to probably strategize how to build, right, the numbers of Dalit intellectuals in India and Canada and US and everywhere, actually, because that's the only way, as you said, as we build scholarship, as we build narratives that
Yeah.
are alternate to dominant narratives, that's the only way we can actually, right, attack this ideology and sort of become the superpower over this. So we'll talk later. You don't have to answer it now. Yeah.
Exactly. That's what one of the things, I am trying to do is that, anytime I get a promising Dalit student, who I think is a promising, and I make it a point to get them to some institution here, especially into graduate studies programs.
Correct. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's so important, like,
Yeah.
basically getting our people and producing knowledge. That's the
Correct.
only encounter.
Correct. I think that Dalit knowledge production
Yeah.
is such an important tool for us to build. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll take this opportunity to conclude by thanking all of you, our audience, for joining us and engaging with us in our third in our series, The Curious Case of Caste: Global Perspectives. And Professor Jangam, thank you so much for sharing your journey from India to Britain to New York to Canada. I think it fits like in our theme so perfectly. You informed us all so much in this last 1.5 hours that we've gotten the privilege to spend with you. You shared your, not only the long historical perspective on how we all got here, but also I think the critical thing is your personal experiences with the current events that I think will be viewed as historical milestones in our struggle. The anti-caste advocacy through policy interventions that you've been doing since I think 2018. You talked about community mobilization in solidarity with other progressive organizations and also the media. We are deeply appreciative of your work. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for your time and support, and also it's so nice to speak to you all, and Jai Bhim.